Hello YouTube, and welcome to another episode of Modding Tutorials, and this is going to be another part of the Advanced Block series. So in this episode we are going to be looking at .set methods and ways that you can make basically different settings for the block. So obviously in our mod underscore class here we have just got a normal block called block, and we're going to be adding some settings to this, and then we have just, as usual, we have registered the block, added a name, and just added a recipe so we can make it. Now, what we're going to do is first go through all the different .set methods. So if you go outside of the brackets here, after the new block part, and press .set, then you get a list of all the different set methods. So the first one that is required is .set block name. That's the only one that you have to have. So just going to set it to block, and then we can set it unbreakable, which obviously makes it so you cannot break it. Set hardness, we're going to do that one to 4F. F basically just means it's a float value because that's what the .set hardness needs. But if we go into like the block class and find, say, an ore, say the gold ore, you can see that that has a hardness of 3F, and then there's also resistance. Basically hardness is I believe I always get these two mixed up, but I think hardness is the like different type of pickaxe, kind of. No, that's set on material, that can't be it. Basically resistance and hardness, one of them is basically, they might both do the same thing, but basically it's when you're breaking it, the resistance basically means that it will take longer to break. I'm not quite sure what hardness does, but I think hardness can like prevent it from, like if we go to obsidian, we just control F, obsidian, if you see it's got a resistance of 2000 F, that basically means that it won't like be damaged if it's exploded. If an explosion happens nearby, it won't like die. And then hardness, yeah, right, so hardness is how long it takes to mine, and resistance is what it can resist against, so for example being blown up. So that's what those two do. So say we made it 50F, then that will take the same amount of time to deplete, as to speak, as the obsidian. Now the next one we can do is .set resistance. Obviously we've just gone over that. If we set it to say 2000F, which is what we're going to do, it won't be able to be blown up. So other ones we can do, we can set the light opacity, which I wouldn't suggest doing light opacity. I'd suggest doing set light value as a float value, and the highest you can go on that is 1.3F. Then ignore requires self-notify. It's .step sound. This is one that people normally get muddled up on. When you copy it out of the block class, you get something like sound cloth footstep. Now you will get an error on that, which is because this sound.cloth footstep is not defined in this class. It is defined in the block class, which is why it doesn't error when it's in the block class. So what we need to write is block.soundcloth footstep, and that will not error. So it's really simple fix for that. Then other ones we can do, I think that's it. Yeah, that's all we can do with the .set methods. So next we'll go to our block class. This is just the basic layout. So you have your integer of I, which will be the ID. We can also pass in a, if we want to, we can pass in an integer of J, and then that will be the second variable, and that will be the texture. Or we can just, because I haven't actually got a texture, I'm just not going to pass that in. And then the last one which is required is the material. So we can set the material to whatever we want, like clay for example, and basically it means only certain things can destroy it. Like if you set it to clay, it will only return what you want if you destroy it with a shovel, whereas if you set it to say rock, then you have to break it with a pickaxe to make it return an item. So we're just going to set it to ground, because that will, or grass, because that will just return, in fact not grass, ground is basically dirt, so that will just return whatever we want it to, whatever you're using. So the next thing you need to understand is if we go into the block class, which I accidentally closed down, and find, if we just hit Control F, that's really useful in Eclipse, Control F, and it will search within that class for certain what they're called, characters. So the first thing we want to search for is, what's it called, ID dropped. Now as you see in here, by default it's going to drop the block ID. So by default, if we don't change this, then it will just drop the block that you have broken. So if we copy this statement and put it into our new block class, so we're not editing anything, so this is completely made new, we're not editing any base classes. So obviously if we leave it like this, it will just return the block ID and that will do nothing. But what we can do is say make it return an item, which we'll have to have dot shifted indexed on the end. Shifted index just basically turns our item or block, or turns our item into a integer, and this statement returns an integer, so that's what we're going to do for that. So then basically when we break it, it will drop an apple, whereas we could also do block dot say bedrock, but then we need to add block ID onto the end to convert it into an integer. And then you also see we have random, j and I variables. So basically what we can do with this is we can type if random dot next integer of 2, or of 1 rather, is equal to 0, then return this, whereas if it is equal to 1, then we're going to return an item. And also something to note here, if we want to make it drop one of our own items or our own blocks, we do mod underscore, then our mod name, so advanced blocks or advanced block dot, and then as we made this block in this class here, we can make it return that block. But instead of that, just for the purposes of this tutorial, I am going to make it return a golden apple. Now as you can see, we have an error here. That is because when we're using if statements, if one of these if statements isn't actually true, like if it doesn't pass through both of these, then it's going to return nothing, and that's not what an integer statement does. So basically we just have to set a value, so we want it to return 0. So if neither of these two statements up here pass, then it's going to return 0. But we know both of these are. Basically random.nextInt means that if you put 1 inside these brackets, then it will this will be equal to either 0 or 1, but it's random obviously. If we put it to 5, it could be equal to 0, 1, 2, 3 or 4 or 5, for example. But as you can see, I've actually done this wrong. We want to make a new integer called k and make that equal to random dot next int of 1, and then we want to change these to k, because in this one we are making 2 random dot next ints which could both equal the same thing. But if we make them both the same random dot next int, then only one of these can pass through. So now if we run the game, that's going to be all for this tutorial. By the way guys, I'll just show you what it does, because in the last tutorial I went over my 10 minutes or 15 minute, whatever the time limit is, and it would not upload. So sorry for that. I will try and make a couple of videos this weekend for you. But as you can see, here is our new block, and as you can see, it has a shadow around it, whereas if we put a normal block down, it would not, because it has a light value. So if it was nighttime, then you could see that it has a light value. And also, as you can see, it is quite hard to break, but it will drop either bedrock or a golden apple when we hit it. And as you can also probably hear, it sounds like wool when we're breaking it, which is simply because we set it to sound cloth footstep. And for some reason, and also it sounds like that when we walk on it, for some strange reason it doesn't want to drop a golden apple, which I think may be due to the fact that we are using it as 1 and we need to use it as 2. So if we just also, if you don't know, sorry, not that, these 2 lines mean or if it's equal to 2. I just think 1 isn't going to work properly for some reason. So now it has more of a chance of dropping a golden apple as opposed to dropping the other type. And we have gone over 10 minutes, so hopefully this still uploads. But I'll just quickly try and show you that this works. And the sound isn't working for some reason, it keeps doing that. Sorry about that. There we go, golden apple. Golden apple, and this one hopefully should be bedrock. But it probably won't be, no my luck. Oh yep, there we go. So as you can see, it randomly drops a different thing each time, which is pretty cool. So I hope you've enjoyed that tutorial. Sorry for not making videos recently, but I've got a lot of schoolwork and I've also got a lot of mods to write and update, as 1.2.3 has just come out, and I will make a update video for that, but there's not really much that has changed apart from a couple of method names. Yeah, follow me on Twitter to keep updated. I will try and get a couple of modding videos out, and also I'm going to start making some spotlights, and I will carry on with the Magica series with my friends on how not to play, and we are nearly hit 1,000 subscribers on that. So yeah, I'm going to try and keep up to date with videos. I have got a lot of schoolwork and a lot of things to get on with, so that's the reason I've not been uploading. Don't think I've gone anywhere or not uploading anymore. Obviously I am, because there's this video. But thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in my next one.